Welcome to Knitting Nicely. I'm Danielle Chauvet, your knitting coach. Today we're going to learn some basics about decoding knitting.
So I'm going to go over some of the more simple patterns, pattern codes first, and then we'll work our way down the line into the more complicated and, in my opinion, more fun patterns. And they're the ones that we can use to make sweaters that look like this. I don't know if you can see this. But this sweater uses lots and lots of different knitting codes because it has all these crisscrosses and different kinds of knitting textures and lots of cabling, and it even has little bobbles on it. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's this little thing, this like little tie of bunch of stitches all together. So when we know how to decode a pattern, we can make all these different stitch patterns in our fabric. So here we go. We're going to start with the simple. Here we go. All right, so we're going to look in our book and see these the codes like we did yesterday. All right, so we've got a code here. These codes are all C2B, C2F, C3B, C3F. I'm going to skip all those because those are cabling stitches and they're a little bit more complicated, okay? So we're going to go right back down all the way to here where it says K. You see that? K equals knit. We talked about that yesterday. So let's do this one here. K2tog. That just means knit 2 stitches together. So let's do that. I will show you how easy it is to knit 2 stitches together. So here we go. Let's move my stitches to the end of my needle here. Knitting 2 stitches together is simply the knit stitch. Okay, so I'll show you a knit stitch real quick here. So this is just a regular knit stitch. Just one stitch moves over to the other side. Knit 2 together means that we're going to knit these 2 stitches as if they're one. So we're going to put my needle over here instead of here and scoot it inside both of those stitches and then wrap your working yarn around the right needle and pull it through both stitches at the same time. Okay, let's do that one again. So we've got knit 2 together means 1, 2 stitches at the same time together as if they are one stitch. Okay, now the next one on the list is also very easy. It's almost the same as K2 together. It's actually K3 together. So that just means knit 3 stitches together as if they're one. Well, let's show you that one. So this one's a little bit more difficult because you're kind of having to squish 3 stitches all together into one. But the idea of it is pretty simple. It just takes a little bit of practice to get it to go. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 stitches that we're going to knit all together as if they're one stitch. So you got to scoot your needle through all 3 of those stitches. Then wrap your working yarn around your right hand needle and then scoot your working yarn through all 3 of those stitches all at the same time. Now you can see I split that yarn. See that? I got to fix that. So I'm going to take my needle out and just scooch it back in so it's not split. That's what I mean by it can be a little bit difficult to do this stitch, especially if your stitches are really, really tight against your needle. I tend to be a little bit of a kind of a medium knitter. I have my stitches relatively loose, but not super loose and not super tight, so I call myself medium knitter. So let's do that knit 3 together again. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Oh, hi everyone. Nice of you to join me today. It's good to see you all here. So we're going to knit these 3 together. That's the K3tog that we're working on. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. You're going to scooch that right hand needle in through all 3 of those stitches and wrap that working yarn around the right hand needle and then scoot that working yarn all the way through all 3 stitches. So that's a K3tog, knit 3 together. All right, let's do one more. I don't want to take too much of your time, but this is really fun to see all these codes. Woo! All right, so the next one on the list is Kwise. Oh, well, does that mean that we're really wise when we knit? Well, I like to think so. I think I'm wise. But that's not really what it means. That means that you're going to slip your stitch knitwise. And I'll show you what that means. Okay, so when we are knitting, generally, sorry about that wiggle. Generally, when we slip a stitch, we're going to slip it purlwise. So that means you're going to act as if you were going to purl it, which means moving your right hand needle through that stitch from the right side to the left side in the front. But when your pattern says knitwise or K-wise, that means you're actually going to slip your stitch through the left side of it. So as if you were going to knit it, but you don't knit it, you just slip it across. Okay? So instead of knitting that stitch like this, you make a new loop on this side, you aren't going to work it. You're just going to act as if you're going to knit it, but don't. Just slip it across. Okay? So those are 3 of the codes we learned today. We learned K2tog, we learned K3tog, and we learned Kwise. K2tog means just knit 2 stitches together as if they're one. K3tog just means knit 3 stitches together as if they're one. And Kwise just means slip that stitch over, don't knit it, don't purl it, just slip it over as if you're about to knit it. I hope you're having fun with these codes because I love decoding my knitting and decoding my patterns.
Thanks for
Hope you
watching.
have a great day.
If you are enjoying
next
Knitting
time.
Nicely's videos,
Bye.
you can hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get all the great knitting tips.